The morning fog hung low over Camp Pendleton, curling around the sharp edges of the barracks and glinting off the wet asphalt. The sound of boots striking concrete echoed against the walls, a rhythm that belonged to men and women who had long ago learned to follow orders without question. But for Lieutenant Harper Davis, each step felt heavier that morning. Not because of the weight of her gear, but because of the weight of the eyes watching her. Harper had always known she didn't fit the mold. She was not the tallest, not the loudest, and certainly not the type of officer most Marines expected to lead men in combat. She had grown up in a quiet suburb of Virginia, a place where bravery was measured in high school football games and where girls were expected to cheer from the sidelines. But Harper had never settled for sidelines. By 18, she had enlisted, driven by a hunger to prove herself in ways no one back home could understand. And yet, here she was standing in the center of the training yard, her uniform pressed, medals polished, her posture impeccable. But still, the whispers followed her. Does she even know what she's doing? She's way too young for this. She can't even command a squad. Harper's jaw tightened, but she didn't flinch. She had faced doubt before. She had faced ridicule, but it never got easier. Not really. She adjusted her helmet and called her squad to attention. 12 Marines turned to face her, eyes narrowed, some barely concealing smirks. Harper knew each one had their own reason for disbelief. Some thought she was too young. Some thought she was too small. Some thought she was just out of place. But Harper had learned that strength wasn't about size. Strength wasn't about proving people right. Strength was about doing the job, no matter what the world thought of you. Listen up, she said, her voice steady but carrying an edge that demanded attention. We have a mission simulation today. Terrain reconnaissance, hostile engagement scénario. I want full compliance, full focus. Mistakes will cost us points. You follow me, you survive. A laugh snorted from the back. Harper's heart skipped, not out of fear, but out of irritation. She turned sharply, the glare alone cutting through the cool morning air. Lieutenant Davis, the tallest Marine, Sergeant Marks said with a chuckle, "Don't take it personal, but I'm not sure anyone here's taking orders from you." The word stung, sharp as a bayonet, but Harper kept her face neutral. Her mind raced, thinking of how to respond without escalating tension. She had been through this before, enlisted women often were. The mocking, the questioning, the endless skepticism. She had grown used to it. She had learned to rise above it. But this time, something felt different. There was a heat in her chest, a fire she couldn't ignore. She took a deep breath and spoke, calm but icy. "Then let me show you how it's done," she said. And with that, she turned and led her squad toward the simulation zone. The simulation was brutal. Harper's squad moved through the obstacles under simulated gunfire and smoke. Every misstep the men made was noted by their own insecurities. Every hesitation a silent critique on her leadership. Harper pushed harder, speaking calmly, directing movements with precision, correcting errors without anger. Her focus was absolute, almost unnerving. By the end of the simulation, the squad had completed the course, but the tension was palpable. They had survived, yes, but nobody had expected it. During debriefing, Mark stepped forward, arms crossed, still unconvinced. "Fine, you got us through it. But this is a simulation. Real combat, that's another story." Harper's lips pressed together. She wanted to snap back, to tell him that real combat wasn't about muscles or volume, but about brains, instincts, and courage. But she held her tongue. Patience, she reminded herself. Patience would get her further than arguing ever could. Later that afternoon, Harper found herself alone in the quiet of the locker room. The walls echoed with distant laughter and clanging metal from Marines going about their routines. She ran a hand behind her ear where the small tattoo rested, hidden from view under her hair. It was just a simple symbol, intricate, almost delicate, yet it carried a weight that nobody could understand. A symbol that meant she had been cleared for classified operations. A mark that told a story few could even imagine. The tattoo was a secret she had carried for years, known only to those who had trained her at a top-secret program. It was a reminder of the missions she had survived, the impossible tasks she had completed, and the respect she had earned in silence. Here on this base, none of that mattered. To these Marines, she was just Lieutenant Harper Davis, the young woman they doubted. She sighed, closing her eyes for a moment. She could feel the fire still burning inside her. The fire that had carried her through grueling nights, through sneers and insults, through moments when even she had questioned herself. Harper had learned a long time ago that proving yourself wasn't about shouting. It was about surviving, performing, and waiting for the moment when the world finally recognized your worth. And that moment, she knew was coming. Just then a knock on the door startled her. She turned to see Sergeant Marks leaning against the frame, smirking that infuriating smirk that made her want to shake him and scream. "You know," he said, casual, "I've been thinking, maybe you did okay out there. For a girl." Harper's hand twitched instinctively behind her ear, her fingers brushing the edge of the hidden tattoo, but she said nothing, her silence louder than words. She studied him, noting the arrogance in his stance, the disbelief still lingering in his eyes. "Do you want to see what real experience looks like?" she asked quietly, the tone measured, almost teasing. Marks blinked, confused. "No? Fine. I guess you'll just have to wait." Harper turned and left the room, each step echoing confidence. Her body carried her forward, but her mind raced ahead to the real test, when the doubts, the mockery, and the sneers would no longer matter. When her actions, her courage, and her secrets would speak louder than any insult, because she knew something they didn't, something that would change everything. But for now, the war for respect had just begun. The next morning, the base seemed colder than usual. The sun struggled to push past the lingering clouds, casting long shadows across the training grounds. Harper's squad gathered, faces tight with skepticism, the air thick with unspoken doubts. Every eye in the group was on her, not the respectful watch of a soldier toward their leader, but the uncertain gaze of people waiting for her to falter. Harper stepped forward, surveying the men and women she was tasked to lead. Her posture was straight, confident, but inside she felt the familiar mix of nerves and determination. She had been underestimated before. She had faced sneers, sarcasm, and outright disrespect. But today the stakes were higher. Captain Reynolds, a stern officer with decades of experience, joined them. His presence always amplified tension. Had a reputation for seeing through pretense, rewarding only results. He didn't speak much, letting silence hang like a knife in the air. When he finally did, it was sharp. "Lieutenant Davis," he said, his voice carrying authority without harshness. "You've earned your position on paper, but paper doesn't survive real fire. Today, your team faces a live fire exercise. You'll lead them. And remember, one wrong move can end careers, or worse." A ripple of murmurs ran through the squad. Mark snorted again, muttering under his breath, "Let's see if she can handle real pressure." Harper clenched her jaw, ignoring the comment. She had trained for this. Years of drills, endurance tests, and high-stakes simulations had prepared her body and mind for moments like this. What she hadn't prepared for was the silent wall of disbelief pressing against her. The exercise began. The squad advanced through a dense woodland area just beyond the base, where blank rounds screamed past and explosions painted the ground with smoke and dust. Harper's heart pounded, not from fear, but from focus. Every decision mattered. Every step carried weight. At first, things went smoothly. Harper's directions were precise, her commands clear. Her team moved efficiently, following her instructions. But Marks kept testing her. He would subtly question her orders, delay responses or execute movements incorrectly, trying to force mistakes. Harper remained unflinching, correcting him calmly, guiding the squad without anger, without showing frustration. Hours passed. The sun climbed higher, sweat-drenched uniforms, muscles ached, and minds teetered on exhaustion. The squad was being pushed to its limits, and yet Harper's leadership held firm. Then it happened, a simulated ambush. Hidden markers indicated enemy positions that would trap the squad if they didn't respond quickly. Harper froze, assessing the situation. The trees and underbrush obscured visibility. Marks panicked, barking suggestions that would have led the squad straight into danger. The tension was unbearable. Harper acted. "Left flank now. Suppress the line. Cover me." Her commands cut through the chaos like steel. Soldiers responded instantly, and Harper led the maneuver herself, moving swiftly, calculating every risk. For a moment it seemed impossible. The squad was outnumbered, outflanked, and cornered. But Harper's training, her instincts, and her unyielding focus turned the tide. They moved as one unit, and the simulated ambush was neutralized. When the exercise ended, the squad stood, battered but intact. Silence fell, heavy and tense. No one spoke at first. Then Reynolds finally broke the quiet. "Lieutenant Davis," he said slowly, eyes locked on her. "That was exemplary. You made the right calls under pressure. Your team survived because of your leadership." A flicker of disbelief crossed Mark's face. He opened his mouth to argue but paused. Harper didn't need him to say anything. Her gaze met his, unwavering, silent, and in that moment, the air between them shifted. It was not respect. Yet. Not fully, but the seed had been planted. Doubt had met competence head-on and Harper had held her ground. Later that evening, the squad returned to the barracks, exhausted and battered. Harper stayed behind, checking equipment, ensuring everything was accounted for. Marks lingered nearby, a silent shadow of begrudging curiosity. "You've got skills," he said finally, his voice low. "Not what I expected." Harper didn't smile. She didn't need to. "It's not about what you expect," she replied quietly. "It's about what you do when it matters, and right now that's enough." He left, leaving her alone in the dimly lit room. Harper ran her hand behind her ear again, feeling the edges of her hidden tattoo. It had been nearly invisible today, but she knew the power it carried. That mark was not just ink. It was a declaration. It meant she had been trained for missions few could imagine, that she had faced dangers most couldn't survive, and it was time. Harper knew the Marines were ready to see the truth. Not yet fully, but close. She would reveal it carefully, deliberately. The tattoo behind her ear was her key to breaking the final barrier of doubt, the symbol that would force even the most skeptical Marine to recognize her as more than just a young officer. They would see her as a soldier who had earned her place. The night was quiet, almost peaceful. But Harper's mind raced with plans, with strategies for the challenges to come. Marks and the others would continue testing her. Some would always doubt. But the ones who mattered, the ones who had seen her in action, would not dismiss her again. Not after what was coming. She touched the tattoo once more, tracing the intricate lines with a finger. It was small, discreet, almost invisible unless intentionally revealed. But when the moment came, it would speak louder than any words, louder than any argument. Harper smiled faintly, a mix of anticipation and determination. She had endured the doubt, survived the mockery, and led through fire. The real revelation, the moment that would change everything, was just ahead. Tomorrow, she thought, the Marines would see her for who she truly was, and they wouldn't be able to ignore it. The battle for respect was far from over, but Harper Davis was ready. She had been underestimated all her life, and now, for the first time, she had the power to turn disbelief into awe, and when that happened, no one would ever question her authority again. The following week dawned gray and overcast, clouds pressing down like a weight on the base. Harper Davis felt it too, not in the air but in the tension that clung to every corner of the training grounds. She had led her squad through drills and simulations, proving time and again that she could hold her own. Yet there was still one barrier left, the unshakable doubt of Marines who refused to see her for the soldier she was. The day began with a new assignment, a joint operations exercise with multiple squads. It was designed to test leadership, coordination, and tactical skill under extreme conditions. The briefing room buzzed with nervous energy as officers reviewed maps and deployment plans. Harper's squad sat together, silent but alert, while Marks leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, smirking. "Lieutenant Davis," Captain Reynolds said, his voice cutting through the chatter. "Your squad will lead the advance. You are responsible for coordination and security of the perimeter. Any failure reflects on your leadership." Harper nodded, her focus unwavering. "Understood, sir." The squads moved out to a remote section of the training area, a forested valley with steep hills, narrow paths, and simulated enemy strongpoints. It was the perfect stage for chaos, and Harper knew it. The moment the exercise began, tension mounted instantly. Radios crackled, smoke grenades ignited, and the sound of simulated gunfire filled the air. Marks tested her immediately. "We should flank from the right," he said over the comms, deliberately ignoring her previous instructions. "Your way's slower." Harper's heart skipped a beat, but she didn't flinch. Calmly, she issued her commands again, redirecting the squad without anger, correcting every deviation. The exercise escalated quickly. Harper's squad encountered obstacles that would have caused hesitation in less experienced soldiers. Hidden pits, booby traps, and sudden ambushes forced Harper to make split-second decisions. Each time she acted decisively, moving through danger with precision, guiding her Marines past every trap. But then the final obstacle appeared, a narrow ravine with unstable footing. Marks froze at the edge, glancing at Harper with thinly veiled disbelief. "This isn't safe," he muttered. "We'll fall if we try to cross like this." Harper's eyes hardened. "We don't have a choice. Follow my lead." Her voice carried authority that silenced every protest. She stepped forward carefully, testing the ground, and then motioned for the squad to follow. One by one, they crossed under her guidance. A misstep from Marks could have ended badly, but Harper anticipated it, adjusting her instructions in real time. When the squad finally reached solid ground, the tension in the air was almost unbearable. No one spoke. Mark's face was pale, his arrogance fading into something close to awe. Harper didn't look at him. She was already scanning the terrain ahead, planning the next move. But then she felt it, the subtle itch behind her ear, the reminder of the hidden mark she carried. She knew the moment had come. The moment when doubt would finally be silenced and respect earned. As the squads gathered for debriefing, Reynolds stepped forward. "Lieutenant Davis," he said, voice sharp and deliberate, "your leadership under pressure was remarkable. Your squad's success is a direct reflection of your decisions." Marks's jaw tightened. He opened his mouth, clearly ready to argue, but Harper raised a hand, a quiet signal for attention. Then, with deliberate calm, she reached behind her ear and brushed aside her hair. There, inked delicately but unmistakably, was the tattoo, a symbol denoting her clearance for classified operations. A mark earned through years of survival in missions no one on this base had even known existed. The room froze. Whispered reactions rippled through the Marines. Some leaned closer, squinting, struggling to comprehend what they were seeing. Mark stepped back, his mouth opening and closing without a sound. "This," Harper said quietly, but with unshakable authority, "is the symbol of the missions I've completed, the operations I've led, and the risks I've survived. You doubted me, mocked me, questioned my authority. Yet here I stand, leading the squad that just outperformed every expectation in this exercise. This mark is a reminder that respect is earned through action, not assumptions." Silence filled the room, heavy and electric. Marks looked at her, finally seeing beyond the uniform, beyond the rank, beyond the assumptions he had clung to. He opened his mouth, closed it, then nodded slowly. You really did it," he said, voice low, almost reverent. Harper didn't respond with triumph or anger. She simply nodded once and turned to Captain Reynolds. "Sir," she said, her voice steady, "the squad is ready for whatever comes next." Reynolds' expression softened for the first time in the day. "Lieutenant Davis," he said, "your performance today proves you are more than capable, not just in simulations but in leadership under pressure. Well done." For the first time, Harper felt the wall of skepticism around her begin to crumble. The Marines who had doubted her were silent, processing the truth of what they had witnessed. The hidden mark had spoken louder than any argument, louder than any protest. It wasn't arrogance, it wasn't luck. It was earned skill, courage, and experience. Later, Harper walked alone to the edge of the training field, the wind tugging at her hair. She touched the tattoo lightly, feeling the cool ink against her skin. This mark had been a secret, a quiet declaration of everything she had endured and survived. But now it had become a beacon, a testament to what it meant to rise above doubt, to lead with skill, and to command respect without demanding it. The shadows lengthened, and the base grew quiet. Harper allowed herself a small, private smile. She had fought for recognition, endured mockery, and faced skepticism. And now she had turned every doubt into proof that a leader is measured not by others' expectations, but by courage, intelligence, and unwavering resolve. Her squad would follow her now, not because they had to, but because they knew she had earned it. and the Marines who had once questioned her would no longer doubt her abilities ever again. Harper's journey was far from over. There would be more missions, more challenges, more moments that tested her limits. But she had faced the fire of disbelief and emerged victorious. And the mark behind her ear, small, discreet yet undeniably powerful, would serve as a reminder that she had fought every step of the way to claim the respect she deserved. The dawn broke slowly over Camp Pendleton, painting the training grounds in pale gold. Harper Davis stood alone at the edge of the field, the wind tugging gently at her uniform. Her squad, now fully aware of her skills and authority, had begun to move with confidence, executing drills with a precision that had seemed impossible just days before. Harper watched them, a sense of quiet pride settling in her chest, but she knew that today would bring the true test. The announcement came over the base intercom, a surprise evaluation from the regional command, a joint exercise designed to push squads to their limits, testing leadership, coordination, and decision-making under pressure. Every squad leader was expected to lead, but Harper knew this wasn't just another test. The eyes of everyone, her squad, her peers, even the skeptical Marines like Mark's, would be on her. As the squads assembled, Harper caught Mark's gaze. There was no smirk this time, just curiosity and the faintest trace of respect. He had seen what she could do, but today he would see the full measure of Harper Davis, the leader who had earned her place through courage, skill, and unshakable determination. The exercise began with an emergency deployment scenario. Simulated explosions erupted around the base, alarms blaring and instructions crackling over the comms. Harper's squad was tasked with securing a critical zone, a winding canyon littered with obstacles, uneven terrain, and hidden enemy positions. Marks hesitated at the first obstacle. His hand instinctively went to his weapon, but Harper's calm voice cut through the chaos. "Follow my lead," she commanded. "Trust the plan. Trust me." The squad moved as one, executing Harper's instructions with precision. Every decision she made was calculated, every movement deliberate. Even when the simulation threw unexpected hazards in their path, Harper adapted instantly, redirecting her squad without hesitation. Midway through the exercise, the scenario escalated. A casualty had to be extracted under heavy fire. Harper moved forward herself, guiding the team through the danger zone. Her body was tense, her senses alert, but her resolve was unwavering. She led them with a mix of authority and empathy, ensuring every Marine knew their role and their responsibility. It was during this chaotic moment that the pivotal event occurred. Harper noticed Mark struggling, overthinking his movements, endangering the squad. With a swift motion, she approached him, leaned close, and whispered, "Look behind your ear." Confused, he turned instinctively. Harper pulled back her hair, revealing the intricate tattoo, the classified symbol that had always been hidden. The sunlight caught the ink, drawing sharp, deliberate lines that none of the Marines could ignore. The effect was immediate. Gasps rippled through the squad. Mark's eyes widened and his mouth opened, but no words came. The symbol told a story that was impossible to argue with. Harper had been trained for missions that demanded intelligence, courage, and composure under fire. Missions that required a level of skill far beyond what any simulation could measure. "She's not just a lieutenant," one of the squad members whispered, awe in her voice. "She's something else." Harper nodded once, not arrogantly, but with quiet authority. "Actions speak louder than assumptions," she said. "Now follow my lead." The squad moved forward, seamlessly executing Harper's commands. Every previous doubt melted away. The Marines who had questioned her authority, mocked her, or dismissed her abilities now followed her with full trust. By the time the exercise concluded, Harper's squad had not only completed the mission, they had outperformed every other team, achieving objectives faster, safer, and with impeccable coordination. Captain Reynolds, observing from the control tower, nodded in approval, his face a mix of respect and mild astonishment. Marks approached her afterward, the tension in his shoulders replaced with reluctant admiration. "Lieutenant, I don't know what to say," he admitted. "I underestimated you? I shouldn't have." Harper looked at him steadily. "You're not the only one who's been wrong," she replied quietly. "But what matters is that we got through it. Together." It wasn't vengeance she wanted. It wasn't punishment. It was recognition, earned not through anger but through action. Marks nodded slowly, finally understanding. Harper had turned skepticism into respect, mockery into trust, and doubt into admiration. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Harper stood alone again, running her hand over the tattoo behind her ear. She had carried it as a secret for years, a silent testament to the missions she had completed and the obstacles she had overcome. Now it was no longer hidden. It had become a symbol of her journey, of her resilience, and of the respect she had earned, not just from her squad, but from everyone who had ever doubted her. In the days that followed, Harper's story spread quietly across the base. Marines who had once whispered behind her back now nodded with respect in the halls. Her squad moved with confidence and unity. Marks, once the most vocal skeptic, became one of her strongest supporters. And Harper? She continued to lead with the same calm, unwavering focus, knowing that her strength wasn't in proving them wrong, but in showing them what true courage and leadership looked like. The tattoo behind her ear remained a quiet reminder of her journey, a mark of sacrifice, skill, and unyielding determination. And every time someone looked at her, seeing her command with confidence, they knew one thing for certain. Lieutenant Harper Davis was a force to be reckoned with. She had been doubted. She had been mocked. She had been underestimated, and yet, in the end, she had emerged victorious, not through arrogance, not through defiance, but through unwavering bravery, quiet skill, and a resilience that refused to be broken. Harper smiled faintly, the wind catching her hair once more. She had earned their respect. She had revealed the truth, and she had proven, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that strength, courage, and leadership come in many forms, and that nothing, not even doubt or mockery, could ever hold her back. The story concludes with Harper fully vindicated, her bravery and skill recognized, and the secret behind her tattoo revealed at the perfect moment to transform doubt into awe